The United States. The United States, once considered a prime destination for Indian nationals, is now rethinking how it handles visitors, especially in light of increasing geopolitical tensions. Historically, the US has enjoyed a strong relationship with India, particularly in terms of trade, education, and immigration. However, the evolving political climate, coupled with national security concerns, is forcing the US to take a more cautious approach when it comes to granting visas to Indian travelers. One of the main issues is the growing focus on national security. Over the past few years, the United States has increasingly scrutinized foreign nationals, particularly from regions deemed high risk for potential security threats. Indian nationals have felt the brunt of this shift, as their government's growing influence in global politics has brought both attention and concern. Issues like cybersecurity, defense agreements, and trade disputes have led to a more guarded stance on travel, making Indian nationals more vulnerable to restrictions. Another major concern for US immigration officials is the issue of overstays and unauthorized immigration. For years, the US has been dealing with rising numbers of foreign nationals overstaying their visas, particularly in categories like student and work visas, where Indian nationals have a significant presence. The US government has faced mounting pressure to curb this trend, as overstays put a strain on the country's resources and security infrastructure. For Indian nationals, this means an increased likelihood of having their visa applications subject to more intense scrutiny, with a higher chance of rejection or delays. The tightening of visa rules could be particularly noticeable for Indian students, many of whom flock to US universities for higher education. These students often rely on work visas after graduation, but with growing concerns about visa overstays and the potential for illegal immigration, the US government might start tightening regulations surrounding these programs. Additionally, the growing scrutiny of work visas could lead to more extensive interviews, document verifications, and background checks, all of which could result in a longer waiting period for approval or even a denial of entry. The US is also re-examining its diplomatic ties with India and other South Asian countries, which may further complicate travel for Indian nationals. If tension over trade, military alliances, or political differences continue to rise, the US might place India on a list of countries with stricter entry requirements. Such diplomatic strains could even lead to a freeze on certain visa categories, especially for individuals coming from high-risk regions. Ultimately, the combination of national security concerns, economic challenges, and political tension means that Indian nationals may soon face more obstacles when attempting to enter the US. The country's increasingly restrictive immigration policies could mean fewer opportunities for travel, study, and work in the US, leaving many Indians searching for alternative destinations. Canada. Canada, long known for its welcoming attitude toward immigrants, is facing mounting pressure to tighten its immigration policies, and Indian nationals could be among the hardest hit. The country has been dealing with a growing concern over overstays and fraudulent visa applications, particularly within the student visa program, which has traditionally been a major route for Indian travelers. As Canada grapples with these immigration challenges, it's becoming increasingly clear that Indian nationals may face stricter entry requirements in the near future. At the heart of Canada's shifting immigration policy is the rising concern over the growing number of Indian students and workers overstaying their visa. The Canadian government has been grappling with a significant backlog of immigration applications, particularly in sectors heavily populated by Indian nationals. This backlog, combined with concerns about the misuse of visa programs, has led to increased scrutiny of Indian applications. Reports of fraudulent visa applications, fake documents, and visa violations have only intensified the debate over immigration reform, with Indian nationals often at the center of these discussions. The Canadian government's response to these issues has been a gradual tightening of visa regulations, with an emphasis on addressing illegal immigration. One of the primary drivers of this shift is the government's growing concern over visa overstays, which have become more prevalent in recent years. In many cases, Indian students and workers who initially arrived with valid visas have overstayed their allowed time, contributing to an increased pressure on Canada's immigration system. The rise in overstays has forced Canada to consider tougher policies, including stricter visa criteria and potentially even outright bans on travelers from countries that have been associated with these issues. Canada's immigration policies are also influenced by political considerations. The growing diplomatic tension between Canada and India, particularly over trade and foreign policy issues, has added another layer of complexity to the situation. As these tensions rise, the Canadian government may decide to restrict the number of travelers coming from India as a form of political leverage or to address concerns over immigration abuse. The internal debate over immigration reform is also intensifying, with some political factions pushing for a more stringent approach, which could further affect Indian travelers. For Indian nationals hoping to visit Canada for work or study, these tightening immigration policies could lead to more hurdles in the visa application process. What was once a straightforward process could soon become more complicated, with longer wait times, more extensive document checks, and a greater scrutiny of applicants. The government's push to address visa violations, overstays, and fraudulent applications could mean that fewer Indian nationals are able to secure visas, making travel to Canada in 2025 more challenging than ever before. The immigration crackdown could also affect Indian tourists, who may find themselves facing more restrictions when applying for visitor visas. As Canada seeks to balance its desire for a diverse and skilled workforce with the need to ensure border security, Indian travelers could experience a more difficult entry process as the country seeks to limit its immigration intake and address internal concerns about visa abuse. United Kingdom. The UK, post-Brexit, is looking at ways to control immigration more effectively. The country, which once had relatively relaxed entry requirements, has started moving towards stricter immigration policies, particularly for non-EU nationals, including Indians. The aftermath of Brexit has meant that the UK is now more focused on limiting the number of immigrants from countries outside the European Union, and India, with its large population and increasing number of travelers, is right in the spotlight. One of the main driving factors behind the potential travel ban is the UK's desire to control immigration more strictly. In particular, they want to reduce the number of visa overstays. The government has expressed concerns about migrants who come to the UK with one purpose, but end up overstaying their visas, which can strain public services and contribute to social tensions. With increasing far-right movements gaining traction and pushing for tougher stances on immigration, the UK government is under significant pressure to tighten its borders. Another concern is the growing trade and diplomatic challenges between India and the UK. Over the past few years, there have been several disagreements over trade deals and foreign policies, which have strained relations between the two nations. This could influence the UK's decision to limit Indian travelers. If these tensions continue to rise, the UK may opt to introduce travel restrictions or bans on specific categories of travelers, such as students and workers, to reduce the flow of immigration. For Indian travelers, this shift in policy means that the days of easy access to the UK may soon be over. The country's focus on reducing visa overstays and addressing the political climate will likely have a significant impact on future travel plans to the United Kingdom. Australia. Australia, a country that has long been a popular destination for Indian nationals seeking opportunities in education, work, and tourism, is now looking at tighter travel restrictions. The shift is largely due to a rise in anti-immigration sentiments and the country's ongoing struggles with its immigration system, particularly concerning the large number of Indian students and workers arriving on temporary visas. Over the years, Australia has faced numerous visa scandals, especially within the student visa program, where violations and exploitation have become common issues. As the Australian government faces mounting pressure to control immigration and safeguard national security, the country's stance on visa applications could take a turn for the worse. Concerns about social cohesion and the economic impact of increased immigration are influencing public opinion, and the government is looking to address these challenges by tightening its immigration policies. One of the significant concerns is the increase in visa violations, including cases of students and workers overstaying their visas or engaging in activities not aligned with their original visa purposes. The Australian government is under growing pressure to reduce the perceived negative impact of immigration on the country's job market, especially as Australia faces its own economic struggles. The rise in fraudulent visa applications and overstays by Indian nationals may lead to the government to implement stricter measures, potentially even imposing travel bans on certain categories of travelers. For those planning to visit Australia for educational or work opportunities, the tightening of visa policies could complicate the application process. It's important to be aware of the growing scrutiny and stricter regulations that may soon be part of Australia's immigration strategy. If these measures are put into place, Indian travelers may face additional hurdles when seeking visas for work, study, or even tourism. Japan. Japan, known for its cautious stance on immigration, is facing rising concerns regarding illegal immigration, and the growing number of Indian travelers is starting to make waves. Japan, which has traditionally been very selective about its foreign nationals, has been cautiously opening its borders to foreign workers due to its labor shortage caused by a declining birth rate. However, as more Indian nationals seek opportunities in Japan, particularly in the labor market, issues such as visa overstays, fake job offers, and exploitation are becoming significant concerns for the Japanese government. Japan's immigration policies have always been strict, and the country is known for its careful control over foreign workers and travelers. The rise in illegal immigration, particularly from countries like India, is causing alarm among Japanese authorities, leading to stricter visa regulations and heightened scrutiny of potential travelers. The government is concerned about the abuse of visa programs, where workers may enter Japan on false pretenses such as fake job offers and end up staying beyond their visa expiration. With growing skepticism about immigration, particularly from nations with higher risks of visa abuse, Japan may impose travel restrictions or even bans on Indian nationals, especially those entering for work or study purposes. As Japan struggles to balance its labor shortage with the increasing concerns over illegal immigration, it may opt to further tighten its borders, making it harder for Indian nationals to gain entry. For those planning to travel to Japan for work or education, it's important to understand that the country's cautious approach to immigration may soon lead to stricter entry requirements. With rising concerns over illegal immigration and overstays, Japan may implement travel bans or other restrictions on Indian travelers, particularly for those seeking work opportunities in the country. As we've seen, 2025 could be a year of significant changes for Indian travelers. What do you think? Will these countries follow through with these bans, or are they just speculative measures? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more updates on global travel news. Stay informed and always be prepared for what's coming next in the world of travel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.